my channel. If you guys are new, welcome to the family. My name is Dina. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be talking about the divine feminine today, and specifically what you can do to awaken the divine feminine within yourself. And I think this is something that many of us forget about, and we get caught up in our day-to-day busy life, and there's so many reasons why embracing this divine feminine within us is actually very important. Before we talk about how to awaken the divine feminine within you, I think it's important to talk about what is the divine feminine, and just to clarify that a little bit more. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that this divine feminine energy is not something that's only found in females. Every single human being on earth contains the divine feminine energy as well as the divine masculine energy. Now, when I looked up the definition of the divine feminine, I got the spiritual concept that there exists a feminine counterpart to the patriarchal and masculine worship structures that have long dominated organized religion. So essentially, the masculine and the feminine are not opposites, but rather they're complementary energies that exist within each and every one of us. Now, I think it's important to talk about the characteristics of the divine feminine so we have a further understanding about how we can bring this more into our lives. So some common characteristics of the divine feminine are creativity, collaboration, intuition, and that very reflective energy. Justice, balance, and morality is also one. Being in tune to your feelings and having a very strong awareness and self-awareness is also a divine feminine trait. The divine feminine is also very sensual. They're very nurturing and healing and gentle. They're very empathetic. They're compassionate. They're heart-centered. And as you can see, like without these, we're gonna get out of balance. We're gonna get burnt out. However, the divine masculine is something that's been heavily pushed by the patriarchy, and our society definitely values the work hard, intellect, this very like hustle hard culture that doesn't leave room for rest, and it doesn't leave room for being empathetic for other people. It's definitely important for all of us, men and women, to awaken the divine femininity within us to make the entire society as a whole a better place to live in. So let's talk about specifically how to awaken this divine feminine energy within you. So the first thing I want to talk about is allowing yourself to rest. Allowing yourself to rest is definitely one of those major characteristics of the divine feminine. While it's important to be productive and get things done, and that part of that masculine energy is extremely important, it's also very important to balance that with the feminine counterpart of allowing yourself to rest and recharge, because without doing that, you can't continue to work on the things that you want to work on, work towards your goals. You can't keep working if you're burnt out. So that is one very important thing. The next thing I've written down here is to practice self-love. The divine feminine knows that it's important to practice self-love, to love yourself, to accept yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, everything about you. So taking some time to practice self-love is important, and finding your own personal love language for you specifically. And I know people talk about specifically love languages for two people in a relationship and how to communicate that love to each other, but you kind of have to learn your love language for yourself as well. This may come really easy for some people, like they know how to show themselves some love, they know what works for them, what makes them feel happy and at peace. But for some people that aren't used to showing self-love and practicing self-love routines and rituals, this might be a little bit more challenging. So I encourage you to take some time to sit with that, reflect, and figure out what your love language is. Also, I have a couple suggestions for you guys if you're looking for self-love ideas. This deck is called the Sacred Self-Care Oracle. It's written by Jill Pyle, I hope I said that right, and illustrations are by Tatiana Vendinkina. And if you're looking for ideas of how you can show yourself some self-love, what you could do is you can pull a card each day and just see what comes out, and it'll give you some ideas, and just kind of intuitively choose what you're looking for. So the images are so adorable, honestly. They're just such cute little images. Like, for example, this one says, spend time with friends, and then you have like rest. We just talked about rest. So definitely a beautiful deck to encourage you to practice some self-care and self-love if you need something just to kind of give you that extra push. I also really like this book. It's called The Witch's Book of Self-Care, and it's a beautiful book that has different rituals in it. It has different crafts and recipes and a whole bunch of different things, different ways that you can show yourself some self-love. So I highly recommend these guys. I'll link them below for you guys. But yeah, definitely taking time to practice self-love is a big characteristic of the divine feminine. The next one I want to talk about is kind of similar in a way to the self-love, but it's a little bit different, and I'm not going to get into too much depth because I have to keep my videos PG. But embracing your sensuality is definitely a big part of the divine feminine, and how you decide to express this is very much up to you. And this can mean so many different things. It doesn't mean sensuality in how you show that with a partner necessarily, but it also could be as simple as lighting a candle. Like, what fragrances make you feel relaxed and happy? So I highly recommend figuring out what like scents make you feel good, like what makes you feel cozy, what fabrics do you like, what do you like to wear, because how you express yourself in terms of like clothing and your jewelry and things like that is also a way to express your own sensuality. So there's so many things that are involved in that, but learning to explore that sensuality and yourself a little bit more is definitely a big aspect of the divine feminine. And this again is not just for females, but men too. Like, men can express themselves in so many different ways, and I think it's very, very powerful and amazing when men feel comfortable in their own sexuality and their own skin to be able to embrace that more feminine side of them. So I highly recommend, you know, taking some time to deep dive into that. The next thing I want to talk about is journaling. And journaling is just such a powerful tool to really get in touch with your thoughts and your feelings. We live in a society that encourages us to not learn about ourselves so much and to just not even think or reflect. We watch television for hours. We scroll mindlessly on social media. We do all these things that almost disconnect us from who we are. And when you're mindlessly doing these tasks, you don't really think so much about yourself, your thoughts, your feelings. And then sometimes when it's time to do that, it's almost overwhelming and scary because we're not used to it. So taking the time to journal actually allows you to get to know yourself more. It also allows you to become extremely comfortable with being alone and being alone with your thoughts and your feelings and your ideas and all of that. Next one I want to talk about is practicing divination. Practicing divination is definitely a way to work your intuitive muscle. I found that once I started reading tarot and oracle cards, I definitely became more intuitive. I definitely became more in tune to my divine feminine, but also it in a way gave me a push to be more kind to myself, because I'd be working my butt off and draining myself, and then I'd do a card reading and the cards would tell me, Dina, like, chill and relax and recharge. Like, the cards would literally tell me that. It still happens consistently. It's so funny. But there's something about reading cards or just any sort of divination. If you're not into cards, there's rune stones, there's pendulums, there's reading tea leaves. You know, there's something for everybody. If you're interested and intrigued in divination, I highly recommend it because it's definitely a way to connect to this divine feminine aspect of yourself. And it's not just an intuitive practice, it's a reflective practice. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize about tarot and oracle decks is you don't just use them to tell the future. I mean, I rarely use the decks to tell the future. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm looking for advice. I'm looking for ways to work through things that I'm currently dealing with. And the tarot and oracle decks are an amazing way to reflect back to you things that are going on in your mind, your life. It's a perfect way to really work through difficult emotions, challenges, things that you're dealing with, and come up with solutions. Tarot and oracle is so amazing and helpful for that. So I highly recommend trying that out. The next thing I want to talk about is dancing and moving your body. Guys, this is one of the most beautiful and amazing ways to get in tune to your divine feminine energy. The divine feminine is very in touch with his or her body. They know how to move in a way that feels right and good for them. They're free, not having shame in moving your body, not having shame in dancing. And I think it's very important to take the time to, you know, feel comfortable in your own body and just move. And it's such an amazing stress reliever. Like, I feel like I never feel down or upset or bad when I dance, when I move my body. And sometimes it's hard to get yourself to do that if you're feeling bad, but once you do, you feel so much better. The next thing I want to talk about is doing something creative. One of the key aspects of the divine feminine is embracing your creative self. Everyone's creative. Whether they believe it or not, we are creative beings, and creative might not mean creative in the way you think it means. Some people think, oh, because I can't paint or I can't draw, I'm not creative. I don't play an instrument, I'm not creative. There's so many ways that creativity is expressed. Everybody is creative in some way. All you have to do is find what specifically speaks to you. What is your niche? What is your way of expressing creativity? creativity. A lot of us tend to forget this part of ourselves as we grow up, as we get jobs, as we get busy and stuff. But you know, when we're kids, we've got the most amazing creative imagination. And that part of us doesn't leave. It's not gone. Our inner child didn't disappear. It's just suppressed within us. And I think taking the time to be creative and embrace that part of ourselves is so important. So take the time to create something, be creative in some sort of way. Another key aspect of the divine feminine is caring for the earth, caring for the world that we live in. And I think doing something special for the earth, whether it is, you know, picking up trash or gardening, caring for plants or animals or something like that, whatever that may mean to you, I think showing love for the earth and appreciation for the earth is a very strong way to connect to your divine feminine energy. The next thing I want to talk about is feeling your emotions, and this is such an important element of the divine feminine energy, and this is something I feel like men especially need to learn to do, because society has socialized men to not feel their feelings, to not cry, to be strong. You know, you can't cry, you got to be a strong man, and that's not fair and that's not right, and everybody should feel free to express their emotions, because that is a beautiful part that makes us human, and that is an important part of the human experience. So allowing yourself to feel your emotions, to not suppress them, to not push them away, but just allowing yourself to feel them is very important. So I have one more thing on my list, but this is by no means all the ways to get into divine feminine energy. I'm sure there's so many other ones. I know that there is, but the last one I want to talk about is meditation and breath work. These are definitely very powerful ways to get in tune to your divine feminine energy. Breath is the source of life, and meditation and breath work definitely connects you to yourself, like your higher self and your soul on this deeper level, but also just connects you to something higher from yourself, whether it is the universe or God or whatever you believe in. Taking the time to slow down and tune in is a very beautiful way to get in touch with this energy and also get in touch with your intuition. Breath work can either be something that's very slow and relaxing, or it can be something that's very intense and invigorating and powerful and bring up a lot of stuff that needs to be worked through. It can be very emotional. There's so many different ways that you can go about it, so I highly recommend you guys look into that. And I know sometimes it's hard to find time to do things. These are all little things that you can add to your daily routine that don't take a lot of time. You can very easily add in a quick like 10-minute dance session, or you know, a little bit of journaling before bed, or whatever it may be. Divine feminine energy is so important for us. It's so important for our well-being, for our experience here on earth, to accept ourselves, to appreciate ourselves, to be kind to ourselves, kind to other people, to love. This divine feminine energy is a very loving energy and something that we need more of in this world. If you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. It definitely helps out my channel, and maybe consider subscribing and sticking around. I put up new videos every single week. I wouldn't want you guys to miss out, and I would love for you to be a part of our family magic unleashed. I hope you guys have a beautiful day and take some time to show yourself some self-love and acceptance. Have a beautiful day, guys. Bye-bye.